if I remember.
Are we on?
everything.
You were on, but
Okay, and Yetta,
Yeah,
this is going to be your story,
my son.
and we're making this for the family,
Okay.
so we have a little bit of a living history.
Okay, so what you gonna ask me? My
Okay.
father, my mother,
Okay,
my sister.
let's start with where you were born.
I was born in Kopaczynce, Galicia,
Which is a section of Poland, right?
right?
And did you live in a house or did you live in?
We had a old house in the middle. There is a road and here was a sidewalk. A sidewalk?
Sidewalk, yeah. And now,
It was a big house.
describe Kopaczynce a little bit. Is it a village? Is it a
It's
city?
a small town.
Uh-huh.
A small town, and mostly Jewish people.
Mm-hmm. Ukrainian Jews.
A lot. And the Ukrainian was very terrible people during the war.
Mm-hmm.
They I don't know how to explain this, because if they knew people, Jewish people, they showed the places and they took everything out from the houses.
We'll go into that a little bit in a moment.
Yeah.
And Yetta, tell me what was your father's name?
What?
What was your father's
Michael.
name?
Michael.
Michael.
Yeah, Michael.
And can you describe
Weisberg.
Michael Weisberg?
No, that was the mother's name. Yeah, Weisberg.
And describe your father for.
Oh, he was so strong man. He was. My sister Peppa was born 6 years when I was born. After 6 years, and after 6 years after me was Isha born. 3 children.
Isha, we know him as Isidoro.
Isidore. And what else? And my father at a store, a grocery. And I had cigarettes. I don't know how to call it a cigarette store. Cigarette store? Was traffic in Polish, but in English I don't know.
Just cigarettes or cigars?
Cigars and
any food stuff?
no, just cigars, jak się... cigars.
And what happened to...
Tobacco.
Can you tell me? Tobacco.
Tobacco.
And Yetta, and what was your mother's name?
Hannah. Hannah, they called her. They're nice. But Hannah was a real name, Hanka.
And what was she like?
She was very nice. She was so good. We had not far was a jail. When they brought somebody, a Jew or this, they came and my mother sent always money, eat.
She would send food to the jail to help them?
Always.
Always?
Yeah. And
were they religious people?
Wait a minute. One day we have in the kitchen a door in the middle to the basement.
Mm-hmm.
To the basement. One time, my brother took your father, and then he was a small child, and he didn't saw the open door, so he fell down with the baby, with your father, and my mother had a lot of friends, Jewish friends, and they came and they said, you know what? The meals what your mother sent to the jail, and the meals what they every Thursday given to the poor, spread and under the baby and the.
And that's how he was. So that's how he was okay.
Who? Yeah, it was okay. In English, it's not so easy to
I
explain.
understand.
But you know what I mean.
I do. I do.
They spread the
It was like the-
bread, the flour, everything they spread, and they fell on this because your mother was so good and helped everybody.
Hmm. Were they religious, Aunt Yetta?
No, I'm not religious. Every Saturday, my mother took Malai. Malai was from cornbread.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the forest every Sunday, every Saturday. Was she beyond for the holidays? We went all to the synagogue,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sitting next to my mother I have to say
The balcony
balcony, yeah.
of the synagogue?
Yeah, in the synagogue, and there was a candle. I remember always I sang, and yeah, I forgot. My I forget in so many years.
Right.
Adonai, Adonai, I remember when they prayed, and I was sitting next to my mother, and then we went on, and my sister was gone to your grandmother, my sister. She went to the college, Ukraine,
That's Peppa.
Peppa. And my brother went to Tarnopol College.
Mm-hmm. That was a different school?
Different, no, not different, but we didn't have a small town, just Ukraine. And that's what, and what else can I tell you? And
And Yetta? So the family made a living from the grocery store.
Grocery, and
And-
I was in the traffic is a cigarette store. Cigarette store?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
And
I was
Kopachice
selling.
was mainly a farm town? Did most people make a living as farmers?
No, not Jewish people, Goyim. They have around the town, so they always come Wednesday. They make a market outside.
Mm-hmm.
They were selling all kind of.
How did the Jewish people earn a living?
They had stores.
They had store merchants,
More, yeah.
small merchants.
More or less, yeah. Not nafta, highest yield.
And Yetta, could you tell us just a little bit about the house you grew up in? Did it have electricity? Did it have heat?
What?
Can you tell us a little bit about the house that you grew up in? The home that you grew up in? Was it a nice house? Was it a small
No,
house?
old, very old house.
Mm-hmm.
We had a living room,
Mm-hmm.
and then we made a traffic. We had a cousin, Nolo Kohn. He was living in Vienna. He came and he gave us the license for the store.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made
A wall?
a
A
wall.
separation?
Yeah, and this was the living room,
Mhm.
and then was a kitchen, and then was a small room that we had Giorgio, we had a grandfather, my mother's father.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't walk, so he walked like this with a cane every day.
What was his name?
Out of the boat. Out, yeah, he was sick, and his name was different, but when he was sick, they called him Alta. Alta is that means old.
Old.
Old. Old. When somebody came and he wanted to go to sleep, so he said, Alter de Wolkes. Wolkes was his father. Ze lost the scheide. You can go home because I'm going to sleep. Alter de Wolkes. Jewish is different and English is different. You understand?
Aunt Yetta?
What else was it?
So Aunt Yetta, when did things change in Kopachince? Do you remember the year that the Germans came to?
Yeah, 49. Start the war. 49?
No, 39.
39.
Yeah.
Start the war.
Mhm.
It was very hard. We were in the house, and I remember somebody knocked on the door, a German, and my father opened the door. He saw a German. He threw him to the floor, and we escaped with the front floor.
The back door?
No, the back. He came.
Oh, so
Open, and we escaped in the front door. And then it was Halitzer, his father, his grandfather. No, the whole was his father, Halitzer, and he said, I forgot something. We were together, and he said he forgot something. He went back, so our neighbor was through the window, saw when he came back, and a German shot him, and he said, "Oi, Mama," and he fell down. He called him, killed him. It's a lot of things to do.
And where did you go after that?
We went to a neighbor, sit there, and then we went back. When something happened, Aktia, we went to the florist. And I always had a basket, a little bit bread, water, and what else, sugar. And we went to the forest. And there was a little, not a little, she was a cripple in the forest we find. And she was, there was a boy, not that he wants something for her, just he brought her soup, food. Every day he came and he brought her something to eat. She just died last year. It was my husband's cousin.
And Yetta,
Yeah.
when did you get married? Were you married at this point?
I married before the war.
You married before the war?
I think 39.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
And what was your first husband's name?
Bachman.
Mm-hmm. And when did Peppa marry?
Oh, she was different. She was always with Emily's grandmother, sister.
Mm-hmm.
She was always with her. She had a boy, maybe such a nice Ulick, they called him Julius. And he was such a smart boy, and he said, "Where are you taking me? I don't want to die, I want to live, I'm so young."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they went together. And we, someday, was Sunday, I think, somebody started calling Aktia, and we had a attic, a small one, a little bit nearer an attic, so we went there. There was a
door?
To the house, and here was a small thing it was like a Comora, you have to, you hold some things in there, was in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody told the German, the here open, and they opened, and they took us, me too,
Mm-hmm.
they took us all out.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? Took us out, and they took us to the jail. To the jail.
In Kopachinse?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My husband then was a police. They make him a police.
Mm-hmm.
And he saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And they
How did he save your life?
Who?
How did he save your life, Yetta?
He said, that's my wife.
Mm-hmm.
That's my wife. He was a police.
Mm-hmm.
And then they let me go. He took me to the Jewish family. There was a Jewish family. And she was with the sister, Yetta, with Emil's sister.
Peppa, your sister, was Emil's sister?
Who?
Peppa was with Emil's sister at this time?
Yeah, in the boy. And I was there. And
what happened to your parents?
My parents, my mother died because they took Ziggy away to a camp. And she had the high blood pressure. She was start crying, and they took my Ziggy away, and she started crying, and she died. She died in a few days. And my father, next door, they made a bunker. So my father helped them, the bunker, and when it was active, he went with them to the bunker. And there was a Goyish couple, and they said they showed the bunker and to the Ukraine, or to the German, and they took everybody away. And they took them to a home, and they closed the door and made gas, and gassed out everybody. I don't know how many people, but I know my mother was there. And that's what happened. And my sister was killed in Asia and all.
What happened? If you mind, what happened? You were after your family was taken to the prison, and your husband was able to help you. You said you stayed with Peppa and Emil's sister.
Yeah, but before I was with them, when they took us out, my husband took me away. He said, this is my wife, and he started crying, so he took me away, and they took them to kill. That's what happened.
They took...
She had red hair, such a nice person.
Can you describe Peppa for us?
Peppa?
What did Peppa look like?
Oh, she was wonderful. I remember Yetta traffic cigarettes, and it was Sunday. Sunday was closed, so they could go through the other door inside. And she was there, so I remember Polish officers came, and I came in, and I heard one officer said, such speech with flowers. It's different in Polish.
Mm-hmm.
And she used talking like smells like flowers.
Mm-hmm.
She was very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
She always reading and writing. And she finished, she was in Ukraine college.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine. And Ziggy was a small child. when we went together, grandmother, she said, it's good that Zig is not here. I'm gone. Okay, I'm gone. But Zig, he went to the forest. He ran to the forest. And then I met him.
And Yetta, you said you met Ziggy, after Peppa was taken. And how did you meet him in the forest?
I didn't meet him. I never saw him later. I don't know where he was. Then I know he was in Chile. How he went there, I don't know. I don't remember how it happened. And I was with my husband. And he came from Chile. He was in Chile. I thought he had after the war. In Chile.
Oh, your husband?
No, your father.
In Cuba?
In Cuba.
In Cuba?
In Cuba, yeah.
No, and Yetta, during the war,
yeah.
I know there was a time that you lived in a barn with my grandfather, my father, and my uncle.
Munish.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did that happen?
They made, before I was here, my house was here. We were together here. And then here was a road. Over that was, they made they made, they made a place for the people, for the few people, but I don't
A ghetto?
A ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see? A ghetto. And from the ghetto they sent us to a farm, to work in a farm.
Uh-huh.
So we went there, but I don't remember if your father was there.
Didn't you live in a barn for some time? Was a Christian who saved you?
Oh, this is the end. This Shliva.
Can you tell us a little about Sliva?
Oh, he was a lush.
He was a lush?
A lush.
But he saved you?
She saved us, the woman.
Hmm.
She said, we had, no, not so, we had a friend, and they had a vodka too, a bar. They had vodka, and he was a surgeon, and he always came to drink there. Once he came, and he took out $10 bill, and he paid. So Ukraine police saw that. So the Ukraine police started asking where he lives, what he's doing. He must have Jewish because he had dollars. And the good thing was that was a neighbor from Shliva, where we were. And he came and he said, Mrs. Shliva, tomorrow you will have police. And she said, police? Why they have to come to me? He said, your husband paid with dollars and they knew that you have Jews. She said, okay, let him come. I don't have nobody. And then she came to us. Over the door was, heard what they talking. And they came to us and she said, Slышали, you heard what he said? I was crying. Snow, not nobody, no place to go. What shall I do? I was crying. And she said, don't cry. Don't cry. No, I don't need. You will.
You want some water, Aunt Yetta?
No, no. For you.
But go ahead, Aunt Yetta.
And she said, don't cry. Yeah, but I would not couldn't live with myself if I would let you go and they will kill you. God is good. I will save you. I will save you. You will survive. He took lumber from the phone room and the backyard and made a big hole. And then the lumber, and then the saw. He was working in the night time. And because when somebody came to hide, he took money and he placed them there. He let them go to and then when she said the police will come, she said, we will take you to the place under the tree. And they took this,
Here, Aunt Yetta, take a little water. You talk a lot, you need a little water sometimes.
Okay. So she said, I will take you.
And where did she
skis, on the skis. Ski.
Uh-huh.
They took us separately. Munish and your father, and Emil, and I, and my... What?
Keep talking, Aunt Yetta.
And my husband. The second day they came, the police. They covered us, and overnight fell a big snow. Couldn't see nothing, just snow. And they was searching the whole house, but couldn't see nothing. There was nobody. The second day in the night time, they came, they took us home, and they prepared a big meal that was potato soup and tea. And you know...
Did you have any food? When you were in the ground and under the snow, did you have any food?
Nothing. The whole day. They was afraid to
Was a
come.
whole day and then...
All day.
All night
food.
and then the next night?
Next night. No, the second night.
The second?
The second night they took us, and a big meal was potatoes and bread. You know how they gave it the bread? They cut the bread in numbers. Who took a 3 or 4, they took the bread because they were afraid maybe my is bigger a little bit. They're looking for a bigger piece of bread. So they made numbers.
When you were living with Sliwa in there, were you living in the house or were you living in a barn?
No, once your grandmother, Emily, went to the window and looking out and passed by a neighbor and he saw him. So she came and we told her that they had pigeons. So they took so she went to him and said, please help me to find the pigeon because I cannot do it myself. She wants to show him that nobody is there. And then she planned to kill him, that neighbor. She said so. I will kill him and buried him in the attic. No, in the basement. But she didn't know. She took him and showed him that nobody was there.
And you you didn't have trouble from the neighbor after that?
No. No.
How did you eventually? What happened eventually that you left Sliwa's house? Did the Russians come?
The Russian came. The Russian, and she said, I don't know if it's a regular army, or as some other. I don't know. Then came a doctor. I don't know if it's a doctor. It was an officer, a Jewish officer. I don't know if he's Jewish, but he knew, he saw it. And I said, you see that they saved my life, the woman. And he said, don't say nobody, because they, on the first front, they sent from jail criminals. And they all criminals, don't say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing that I am Jewish.
Mm-hmm. Even because to the Russian soldiers.
Russian Jews, they sent them from the prison. They said, so don't say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what can I do? I went through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The daytime, sitting a piece of bread, a piece of this, nothing.
And Yetta, during the war, did you think that the Germans would lose the war and eventually you would be okay? Or did you think that, or you weren't sure what was going to happen?
I didn't know nothing. Even nothing.
You had no information?
No, we didn't know.
Were you hopeful?
Gonna be.
Did you had hope that eventually the Germans would be defeated?
Yeah, I thought that when I will live, I thought that they will make me higher if I live after the war. But it wasn't. The Russian wasn't. The Russian people, they terrible. I had a friend. I was, after the war, when the Russian came. So I was at an officer, a Russian officer. And my husband, they took my husband and her husband to Russia. I don't know for what, they took him away. And he escaped. And I was left alone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I will never forget that night. I was so crying and crying, and opened the door and fell, and went to the neighbor. I had such a night I will never forget in my whole life. And he left. The officer, he left. And the second day, went home. And my husband never came back. I don't know what happened with him. I don't know.
And Yetta, did you know what happened to my father at that point? Were you aware that he was in a camp or the Russian army?
Yeah, I know. He was in the Russian.
But did you know at that time?
She went. She you call it. She took him out for the. They escaped. They escaped. She was a very nice person.
She being Yaelia.
She is like Eddie is like her. You know what Eddie? No, it's not for this. For that, what I wanted to tell you.
But how did Leah get my father out of the army?
She went, she took some things, I don't know, the socks, all kind of things. She went to Russia, and she went and said, come for a walk, and she escaped
From the army?
from the army.
Do you...
And then they came here, and he was afraid always when somebody is coming to take him back. So he was afraid from the beginning. But later, she helped him. And she helped my brother too, to come here. He was here.
We didn't really talk about Isidoro.
Yeah.
What happened to Isidoro? Your
So
brother?
happened to the Isidoro?
Yeah.
We had a woman, Polish. She had no husband. She had two pharmacists, one in Usiadł, one in Kopyczyńce. My Isidora went to school with her older son, and the younger son, Kazik, my husband teached him, and she liked very much my brother. And she said that when he can learn to be a pharmacist, she gave him one pharmacy and one for her son. And he went to the board
Board for pharmacists?
No, to the soldiers.
To the army?
Yeah.
Oh, to the
Board,
recruiting office?
Board,
To get conscripted into the army?
no, when he was 18 years, they go to the boys.
I think we know what you're saying. To get enrolled in the army.
No.
To get draft?
The draft board.
Okay.
To the draft board. And they asked him, what is he doing? He said, I just finished college. I just finished college. I just finished college, he said. And they said, no, don't fit in, because they had to make him an officer. Jewish.
And they wouldn't make him a Jewish officer?
No.
And Isidoro ended up living in Brazil?
Yeah, so he went to Brazil. He thought in Brazil he could learn, could go to school. So he went to Brazil, to Brazil, and he went to the relatives. We had an uncle, my father's sister was living in Brazil. And something happened, I don't know till now what happened, and he couldn't go. He wanted to go back to Kopyczyńce. So he went to Polish consul, and he said, where are you going? Such black volcanoes
black clouds
on Europe, and you want to go back? Here's a Polish colonial, and you're going to teach them, and you will have money. So he left, and then the war.
And he stayed in Brazil.
And that's all. That's happened.
And Yetta, we're going to have to end now, but
okay.
Would you like to make just any final wishes for the family?
Oh, I love my family. I don't have nobody. You and Peter, that's my whole family. Everybody else is good, but not like you and Peter. And I love you very much, and I always think about it, and I always pray for you. And I hope that you're going to be okay. You're going to be like my father, strong and old.